I think this week we have the most interesting athlete in the world. His background is unbelievable. He was born in the Bahamas, moved to the United States, New Jersey, as a young kid, played at Florida State as a safety, was an All-American at Florida State. He was also a Rhodes Scholar at Florida State, took a year off to go to Oxford because he always wanted to be a doctor, and then was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, spent some time with the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, and is now a neurosurgery resident at Mass General. Myron Rolle. What's up, Myron?
How you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm good, man. How are you? Life is busy. The hospital for sure has been busy, and you just had twins. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, they're 4 weeks old, so brand new dad, and a boy and a girl, Zora and Zayed. They're keeping us up at night, but Latoya, my wife, and I were over the moon, super excited about getting into this new chapter of being parents together. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, man. You were scheduled for a previous town hall, and I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes before it kicked off. You're like, "Hey, man, I got to go to the hospital. Sorry, we'll chat later." It happens fast, huh?
It does. It really does. And when I told you that, I was actually in Boston, so I was not in Birmingham, where my wife is a pediatric dentist. And so, she got told by the doctor, "Hey, you're a high risk pregnancy. We need you to come into the hospital urgently." And so I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" I'm trying to figure out how to get on Southwest or Delta, get to Atlanta, then get to Birmingham, be there at
Wow.
bedside. But I certainly don't want to miss that, and I didn't, thankfully, and everything went well. So we're very pleased.
So you made it in time.
I did, thankfully.
Yeah, that's awesome. We also have kind of a small world moment in the sense of how we met, because we met really through my brother, right? I mean, he was your attendee, or my brother's a cardiovascular surgeon at Mass General, and so what was your connection with my brother?
Yeah, so your brother Jordan, man, he's a great dude. And I saw the last name and I saw the way he looked, and I said, "Man, this guy looks like Jeremy Bloom." I was like, "He looks so really familiar." And so your brother was yeah, cardiothoracic surgeon, and I did my first rotation through neurosurgery on the general surgery side of things. So I had to spend some time with the general surgeons, and your brother was my chief. And so I asked him, I went up to him, I said, "Hey, is your brother Jeremy Bloom?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Bro, say, I can't tell you this your brother, as a small little white boy at Colorado, like outran all of the fast players at Florida State and made us look slow." I was like, "He was the fastest white boy I've seen." And he was like, "Oh man, you got to meet him." And so your brother connected us. We had dinner in Boston, and I was able to tell you that story and tell you how inspirational you were, not just as an athlete on one sport, but two sports, and then transitioning from your life as being an athlete to what you're doing now. It's really impressive because, as you know, it's difficult for guys to make that next step, to get that second phase. And I think you've done it seamlessly. You're a model example of it. And I thank your brother Jordan for being sort of the catalyst to connecting us, for sure.
Yeah, no, appreciate that a lot. Means a lot, especially coming from you. You talked about transition, and I think it's always interesting to think about that, because whether you're a professional athlete or you played high school, whatever sport, or you were at whatever job, like we all go through these moments in our lives where we need to reinvent ourselves and change. You strike me as somebody who always had a plan. Like from a young age, you knew you wanted to be a doctor. Where did you gain that inspiration from, and how are you so clear on what you wanted to do it from such a young age? Was that your parents' influence? I think you were the youngest of 3 or 4 or 5 kids. Was it
Yeah,
your
yeah,
brothers and sisters?
yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, you're right. Youngest of five, and it came from my parents for sure. As you mentioned, we've come from the Bahamas. It's a small commonwealth of Great Britain, just down to Florida, and it's not the most populated area, and there aren't as many resources as America. And so my parents coming to the United States knew that we had ample opportunity and abundance of resources to really expand ourselves, whether it be intellectually or physically or whatever gift that God gave us. They thought that we can get it done here in the United States. And so I was always reminded in my mind and through my parents actually that this opportunity of being in this country, we weren't to be complacent with this opportunity. We weren't to let it just slip through our hands by making poor decisions, hanging out with the wrong crowds, getting distracted, not fulfilling our ability and our potential, and then not, taking advantage of every chance. Every door that opened, just run through it. And so my oldest brother gave me a book by Ben Carson, pediatric neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins, who's currently the secretary of HUD in Washington, D.C. And I read Dr. Carson's book and I said, here is a man who looks like me, Black guy, didn't have a lot of money like me, didn't have a lot of money growing up. We came from the Bahamas and had to start over basically in America. And parents focused on education. His mother made him read books and do book reports. And my parents did the same thing. So I saw a lot of parallels in his life and mine. And I said, you know what? Once I'm done playing this game of football, wherever it takes me, to college, to the NFL, wherever, the next transition will be healing people, being a neurosurgeon like Ben Carson, and trying to have an impact on a community outside of interceptions and tackles or scoring touchdowns on the football field. So my parents really started the principles in my mind of wanting to attack every opportunity. And then I think Ben Carson and his story, his life, planted the seed of neurosurgery in my head so that, once I came of age and was able to, to sort of allow this dream to come to fruition, it could happen.
I love this story. My wife's a first generation immigrant from Brazil. Last week we had Dr. Jimenez, which was a first generation immigrant from Mexico. You just shared your stories, and in all three of those examples, coming to this country with a great sense of appreciation, but also responsibility to make something great for your lives and not take it for granted and work really, really hard, harder than anybody else. And I love those stories. And they inspire me, and so thanks for sharing that. Did you imagine joining the hospital system in such a crazy year?
No, I did not, honestly. I went into neurosurgery because I'm going into pediatric neurosurgery in particular. So I love operating on children and, helping them have a future by, hopefully fixing or helping treat some brain issues or spine issues or peripheral nerve issues that they may have. And so my whole focus has been on brain and spinal cord, central nervous system. But when COVID-19 hit and our elective surgeries were shut down and our outpatient clinics were shut down, our neurosurgical floors were turned into COVID-19 only floors, or they were turned into ICUs to better manage and mitigate the influx of patients. That's when I realized that things got real. And we were asked by our chairman and other members of our hospital to sort of reposition and redistribute ourselves around the hospital to help manage the influx of patients. Basically, we were foot soldiers for the intensivists, the anesthesiologists, the emergency room doctors, the pulmonologists, people really at the front lines. We were the foot soldiers for them, putting in orders, getting scans together, managing patients in that respect. But it was one that I think football, going back to my life as a football player, it taught me how to adjust and be flexible, how to learn to, in the middle of a game, change from a zone coverage to a man coverage, change from, protecting the run and getting close to the line of scrimmage versus playing the deep half because this team is really airing it out. Football taught me how to be flexible. And so I had to be flexible in this sense. I wanted to operate on brain tumors, right? I wanted to fix hydrocephalus in kids, but that was not the call at this moment. The call was COVID-19 and all the patients we had in Boston. And so I'm glad I was able to lean on my football past to help get me through this COVID time. But it was a real team effort, and I'm proud of the way our hospital managed everything.
Has the hospital returned to normal, or what's it like now? And what are you hearing?
The hospital has returned to normal. I would say probably 90 to 95% of the way. We're now allowing family members to come in and see their loved ones, but there's some protocols that they have to go through. We have started our elective surgeries again. So the patients who had meningiomas, they had brain tumors that were slow growing, they had to be put on ice for about 2 months or 3 months. And it's interesting to think that a brain tumor is not something that you want out right away. But I mean, imagine somebody living with the idea, man, I have something in my head that needs to come out. I'm symptom free right now, but what if I end up getting seizures and this elective case turns into an emergent case because I have to be rushed to the hospital, to the emergency room. So thankfully, we mitigated some of that by now allowing these elective cases to happen, and we're sort of catching up speed. Our ICUs and those floors that were COVID-19 only floors are now transformed, and the patients that we were sending to other parts of the city are now all returning back to Mass General. So I think we're getting there, but we're still working through the precautions, being safe, and really getting ready that if another wave of the pandemic hit, especially during flu season, that we'll be prepared for that too, and we'll have the right capacity to take care of those patients.
I always wondered with my brother, and I think with doctors just in general, especially those around really tough situations to be around. Like there's a human side to it, right? And you're a human being, and you're a caring human being, and you come in and you meet a little kid who's got a brain tumor, and or my brother is operating on someone who just got in some accident, and they don't make it, and this happens every single day in a hospital, and normal people outside of surgeons, we don't encounter these things every day. And so like we think about it, we're like, I don't know if I could do that. How do you manage the human element, because I know you're a deeply caring human being, with like dealing with these like really really tough situations?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, Jeremy, it goes to my center, my focus, what keeps me grounded, what puts my feet on the ground. My faith is important to me. I'm a Baptist. I was saved when I was 12 years old or so, and I still find strength in my spiritual community in Boston. I found like a nice little Southern Baptist church that's like, really loud, and, old women catching the Holy Ghost and passing out. That's like what I was used to, right? And I found that in Boston. So I lean on my spiritual family. I lean on my wife. Frankly, she's a pediatric dentist and doesn't know anything about neurosurgery, but knows everything about me, and wants to make sure that I'm whole. And so we talk about what happens in an unfiltered way. And being able to sort of just be wide open with her and transparent has been helpful for me to sort of get things off, right? Because when you're, as you mentioned, when you're in a hospital setting and you have to deliver bad news to a family, or you come away and the surgery didn't go as you wanted it to go, or an outcome is not where you want it to be, you have to sort of muster the strength to say, I had to be steel-faced and speak through facts, and speak with compassion and care to these family members, but yet it still has a burden on you. And so when I'm able to leave the hospital, I'm able to just let it all go, let the burdens come off my shoulder, and just sort of be really open with her. And that's been helpful. My brothers are as well. We're very close. And so talking to people who I can lean on, who love me, who care about me as Myron, not me as neurosurgeon, doctor, Rhodes Scholar, all those other titles, that's been very helpful. And then also working out too, frankly, running and getting some a burn in, feeling sweat, feeling tired, that helps me too, to sort of release. And it's been good.
You miss football at all?
I miss it a lot. And I miss the locker room, honestly, Jeremy. I mean, I miss, and I know you know this too, just being in a locker room with guys who have so much fun and so much passion for the game, but then want to enjoy each other's space, enjoy each other's company. That means a lot. And whenever the season gets going around training camp time, I think to myself, well, why am I not in training camp right now? Like, why am I not playing? But then I realize, obviously, I'm doing something else in my life. But I've remained close to those guys in the locker room who respected me. Thankfully, they didn't look at me as sort of an outsider. They saw me as a smart football player, and they use that, right? So sometimes if they have debates, they'd be like, "Let's bring Myron in. Myron, what do you think? What do you think?" And I'm give my opinion, and then it's done. And I'm like, "Hey man, I'm not Google, but I help you guys. You got Google. You can ask that too." But it's great, and they protected me too. I'll give you a quick story. So when I was at Florida State, my teammates were much different than me, right? I dressed the way I dress now, shirt buttoned up to the top, try to be clean cut, and try to be as my parents wanted me to be, presentable. A lot of my teammates at Florida State were coming from inner city Miami, inner city Orlando, Tampa, some of these really rough neighborhoods. They were wearing dreadlocks, gold teeth, listen to Plies, Rick Ross, 8 country fried steak, sweet tea. They were completely different culturally than me. And so, understanding this group that was different, I was like, man, how am I going to integrate myself into this team and assimilate into this team? But through hard work, through grinding, just like they grinded, through, being accountable, being responsible, through handling my business and my priorities, they respected me and they would protect me. I mean, I would try to hang out with them sometimes, and they would do some unsavory things. I can't say it here in this professional setting, but they would do some things that probably, shouldn't do. And they would like kick me out. They were like, "Hey, you got to get out of here, man. You're going to be president one day. You got to leave. Like, we can't have you be corrupted." And I'm like, "Dang, I just want to hang out with you guys." But when I look back on it, I realized that they were protecting me. They loved me. They wanted to make sure that I was going the right track, even if they were doing something that they probably shouldn't have been doing. But, the brotherhood is amazing. And that's probably the part I miss the most.
Got to come off mute there for a second. Speaking of is politics in your future? I mean, Surgeon General. I mean, I could. Is that a goal?
Hey man, I'm going to leave it open as a goal. I really am. I think politics. I enjoy politics. I really do. And as a Rhodes Scholar, a lot of my cohort from Oxford, they have gone into politics now. Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. Bill Bradley's a Rhodes Scholar. Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, she's a Rhodes Scholar. Susan Rice, a Rhodes Scholar. Cory Booker's a Rhodes Scholar. It's sort of like the thing as a Rhodes Scholar, you go on to politics. I do find that there's value in helping a wide range of people through policies and trying to make a change that way. But I also just love operating. I get so much joy out of, as you mentioned, taking a brain tumor out of a child, or fixing their scoliosis and making them stand up straight again, and allowing them to reintegrate in their society and play sports and have this joy. I mean, that's the most exhilarating thing that I've done in my life, even more so than playing football in front of 100,000 fans at Florida State or in the NFL. It might be in the future, honestly, Jeremy, but at this point, I love what I'm doing.
I could totally see it, man. 100% could see that crossroads in your life down the road. By the way, speaking of, you're very clearly articulate and smart, and smartest guy in the locker room. And were you offended by Sporting News, who called you the second smartest athlete? Like, what's that about?
So my boys were more offended than I was, honestly. When it came in the locker room and our sports media guy gave it to us in Nashville, it was like, hey man, Myron Rolle is the number 2 smartest player, smartest athlete. And the boys were like, who's number 1? Who's number 1? And, I mean, they were going after. I was like, hey man, relax, it's okay. They were ready to fight somebody because they just, they wanted to see me do well, man. I appreciate that. But supposedly, the gentleman who's number 1, a pitcher from the Oakland A's, he's bright and brilliant. And number 2 is not terrible. It's not bad. So I'll take it.
Craig Breslow was voted number 1. I'm offended. No way he's smarter than you. No chance. No chance at all. Nicole from our team actually had a really interesting question that I'm also curious about as well. I mean, especially from the perspective of a new dad, right? I mean, from a neuroscience perspective, in considering concussions in football, would you allow your kids to play football? Or what are your thoughts on, maybe more broadly, concussions in football?
Yeah, concussions are serious, as you know, and I'm glad they're getting more attention now. As a neurosurgeon, it's something where we have tried to influence the management of concussions, especially in kids, sports-related injuries, head injuries. But really, we don't have much of a say because we operate. We either operate or we don't. And so neurologists, psychiatrists, family medicine doctors, sports, behavioral psychologists, they all have a role, a multidisciplinary role in managing traumatic brain injury and concussions in kids. In my opinion, I think I would allow my children to play if a few parameters were met, and were met strictly. 1, equipment was good. 2, the culture changes, that we're getting away from this slobber knocker, high velocity impact collisions, and more into the strategy of the game and proper techniques and fundamentals. 3, if the game is cut down as far as the plays that are played. As you know, Jeremy, I mean, some games you can play 80 snaps, 90 snaps, and that's more opportunities for you to have these concussions. Also changing the culture means changing the idea of reporting things, right? So coaches and other parents and personnel are more aware of being able to report what the symptoms look like, and understand that concussions is not one monolithic type of condition. You have patients who have headaches, they have photophobia, light sensitivity, they have mood disorders, they have cognitive issues, they get very fatigued. They have issues moving their eyes, the extraocular movement. So, knowing concussions and knowing that they can be broken down in the symptomatology is obviously very important as well. So if all of these parameters are met, I would love for my child to play, my son Zayed, to play football, because I know what it did for me. Football has given me intangible things that I'm not sure anything else could have. It's given me the ability to be a great team player, to communicate, to overcome adversity, to take coaching and constructive criticism, to mitigate pressure, to learn how to be flexible and adaptable, and to really just find a task and be focused and lock in and be disciplined in it. And I think that's helped me be a better physician. And I feel like other athletes that I've talked to have used their football traits that they developed in the weight room on the football field into their lives, whether it be in medicine or law or education or business or whatever, and it's helped them be successful. I know employers look for athletes because they know they have the DNA, they have the design to be, great leaders and great employees. And, I would hope that my son enters a game where it's safe and that he's able to receive these intangible qualities that helps him be a great leader and great person once the sport is done.
I think that's really well said. I often think like sports is more important for just the interpersonal experiences that you have and the ability to work with a team, the ability to encounter failure along the way and like get back up and have a short memory, which, we talk a lot about in the game of football, which you absolutely need to have because you're going to get burned by a receiver and then you're going to have to come back on the field, right? And make the next play. You were just awarded a very prestigious honor. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Congress of Neurological Surgeons, the CNS, this is our major national neurosurgical association. They're having their meeting virtual this year, but they give out awards every year for best papers, basically, and best, operative techniques. And me, along with my attending, the senior neurosurgeon, Justin Brown, we were able to win the Best Operative Technique Award for this peripheral nerve surgery we did. So this was a great case. It was a young lady who was healthy, who had an ATV accident, fell, hit her arm, couldn't move her arm. And when we did scans of her arm and her spine, it showed that the nerve roots that control arm function, motor and sensory function in her arm, were completely separated from the spinal cord. The spinal cord is my hand, the nerve roots are here, completely separated. That's called avulsion, and that's terrible because there's really no bringing that back. And so a way to reanimate the arm and to allow it to move again would be to take healthy nerves, different places like we did near her ribs, transfer those nerves into a nerve that's working in her arm and allow her to have grip strength, to able to flex her elbow, to able to lift her shoulder and do these things. Now, that process will take about 6 months to a year, maybe even longer, but she's recovering and doing much better. We presented that to this association. They loved it and they provided us with an award. And it was a big moment for myself and the patients and Mass General Hospital. So we were very excited about it.
Dude, that's huge, man. Congrats. Big high five. And that story is incredible. I actually recently read an interesting study. I don't know. My brother always beats me up for bringing these things up. Was it double blind? Was it placebo? He's so fact-based. So like, I'll be careful where I step here. So feel free to say either you don't know about it but I'm big into getting the body into autophagy, where the cells actually die. The weak cells die off and the new ones are created, new mitochondria are created. And there's a couple ways to do that. You can do it through fasting, multiple day fasting. You can do it through hypoxia, or in other words, depriving the cells of necessary oxygen and killing some of those off and building new mitochondria, which mitochondria is like the energy center of the body. But there was this, in paraplegics, they were putting them on an oxygen machine and inducing hypoxia. So I think it was like 18,000 feet, which is base camp of Everest, essentially, for 60 seconds. And then, so it's called intermittent hypoxia, which was a new concept to me because, back in my football days, I slept in an altitude tent. So when I was playing for the Eagles at training camp, I brought my altitude tent and I slept at 12,000 feet. And the idea is that you learn how to carry more red blood cells because you go to sleep at elevation and you wake up at sea level. But from a neuroscience perspective, like, could there be any truth to that of like, and what they showed is that they're trying to kind of reconnect some neurons that were damaged through hypoxia. Is that area interesting to you? Are you looking into that at all?
I haven't personally looked into it, haven't seen that study, but I can see where there could be merit to recruiting more red blood cells, to allowing better oxygen delivery, especially to the brain as it's either recovering or as it's repairing some damage to it. A lot of times I try to look at the brain in the sense of, probably the best computer that we have. It can process things at nanoseconds: sight, sound, colors, distance, temperature in the room, all connect that together to create a scenario and a setting in which you're in right now to make the world make sense around you. And so if you're able to better improve that computer, by delivering better oxygen to different parts of the brain that may starve of oxygen in certain conditions, then I think it can only be beneficial. But that particular study I don't know of, but I'm certainly interested to find out more about it.
Do you follow Elon Musk's startup, the Neuralink, the one that's kind of implanting the sensors in the brain? They just did a live demo with a pig.
Yeah, I have followed it peripherally, not very, very.
Final question, and so appreciate you stopping by. I know you're a very busy guy, but just tell us about your parents. I mean, it must be really amazing people to move from the Bahamas and to instill the values that you have.
Yeah, I'm smiling because thank you for that. Honestly, I don't think I've ever gotten that question about my parents because I love them dearly and they're phenomenal. My mother, I call her mummy, right? Because we're British Commonwealth, so we have a lot of the same British sort of slogans and colloquialisms. My mummy and my daddy, they met when they were 8 years old in Nassau, Bahamas, and they started dating at 15 and married at 21, and they've been married for 49 years now, so quite a long time. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, y'all from a small island, so y'all really didn't have any other chance to meet anybody else. So this is what happened, and they joke with me, but they are amazing. They had a vision for me and my brothers. They really wanted us to go and take advantage of every chance. It was hard for them to leave familiarity, culture, custom, tradition, paradise of the Bahamas, family, and to start over in New Jersey, a place where my neighbors were Jewish, Pakistani, Korean, non-Bahamian, right? They didn't know what fried kunk, bull kunk, crack kunk burger, kunk fritters, kunk salad, kunk cone, kunk pizza. They didn't know about our food that we eat, right? They didn't know about that stuff. But nevertheless, my parents said, look, here's a chance for you to do well, to do big things, respect your elders, respect authority, be citizens of the world, be good Christians, be good leaders, be good men, and go out and change something. And I pay them all the respect every step I go because they mean that much. And now introducing them to my wife, I got married about a year or so ago. They love her dearly. She loves them. My mother's actually here with us in Birmingham right now, helping us take care of our children. So it's just, they're just amazing individuals. I love them. And I've taken how I want to raise Zora and Zayed by how my parents raised me and my brother. So I think that's the biggest testament to parents when you want to do it like they did it.
Thanks for sharing that story. Really appreciate it. It must be a really remarkable, amazing people. I'm proud to know you. I'm honored to call you a friend, and I really appreciate you stopping by the Integrate Town Hall, and you're going to get a lot of love in the chat for your time. You have already gotten a lot of love. A lot of people have said you're their new favorite speaker, and Myron, there's been some pretty incredible people to stop by. You saw the slides, so really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Best of luck with the twins, and hopefully we can see each other soon. Do another dinner in Boston.
Yeah, man. When the pandemic slows down, you get back up to Boston, and I'm there. We definitely have to link. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for being on this call. Appreciate y'all.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
One word comes to mind. Wow, right? Like, what an impressive human being. He's already doing amazing stuff. But think about all the things. I mean, think about a motivational speaker for kids. Oh my gosh, how powerful would that be? The Surgeon General, he's already given back in lots of different ways. But like I said, I'm proud to know that guy. Like, whoa, you want to talk about intellectual horsepower, high EQ, high IQ, making a difference in the world, and coming to this country with a sense of obligation. Like, I better not mess this up for my parents. Like, I better not mess this opportunity up. Like, let's go, no excuses. And I'm not only going to play in the NFL, I'm going to be a Rhodes Scholar. I'm going to be a surgeon, whatever it takes. Like, put your head down and get to work. And I just love that about him.